learn about Docker and the database and linting and tests. In the previous video, we talked about, let me just check that my audio is okay. Database. All right, so let's continue. I've just confirmed, okay? So in the previous stream, we talked about the system design and architecture. Please make sure you watch this video. It's very good so that you understand the design, okay, of what we're going to start building. But today, let's focus on setting up, okay? So to do that, we are going to actually work with Docker first of all, because with Docker, we shall be able now to set up our database in an easy and manageable way. So let me now move on to something to show you, okay? So if you look at this documentation here, they say FastAPI in containers, okay? FastAPI in containers. And they say when deploying FastAPI applications, a common approach is to build a Linux container image. It's normally done using Docker, okay? So what is Docker? They say Docker is a very lightweight way to package applications, including their dependencies and necessary files while keeping them isolated. So today we're going to use Docker, okay? And after, in your free time, you can actually read this, okay? I read it and I will need to read it again. I discovered something. It led me to this. Let me just try to zoom in, okay? How to set up a Docker file, especially when you're using UV. So again, if you've not watched the previous video, okay, please make sure you do. Okay, so I'm having some neck pain. From time to time, you'll see me stretching my neck backwards. I guess I need to get into good habits, okay, of sitting and how to work with a screen and laptop before me. So let's get started to avoid wasting time. So we are going to create a Docker file. So they're saying to deploy the FastAPI application with Docker, you can use the following Docker file. Of course, right now I don't need to deploy, okay? But it's going to be very good to help me run the project, okay? From the very beginning. I want to set up some of these things early. So I'll copy this, go to my code base, okay? So in the root, I can simply create that Docker file, okay? So here's the empty Docker file. So the first thing we see, okay? You see they say from, let me copy this. So I won't go line by line. Actually, it's already been explained, okay? So we are starting with the base image, okay? Which is Python 3.12 Slim, okay? After that, okay, and actually if I showed you my Python version, you'd find that it's actually this Python 3.12 Python minus version. If I hit enter, you see mine is 3.12 too, okay? So after that, what I need is to have this next line of code, okay? And it's self-explanatory, okay? So our Docker machine, you say install UV, okay? So this is the command that is going to help us to install UV. And actually, like you remember in the previous stream, I had UV, okay? And if you don't know what UV is, simply it's a modern way or a modern tool that helps us to manage, okay, Python dependencies and stuff like that, okay? So you can simply go to their GitHub, UV Python, and read about it. If you need me to maybe to create like a live stream about it, I can do it and then we learn UV live, okay? But ideally, they say an extremely fast Python package manager and project manager written in Rust. And it's actually really good. So yeah, so I will now, next up is this, okay? So they say now copy the application to the container. That's the next step. Okay, so we're copying ideally everything, okay, to a directory called app. After that, okay, we now install the dependencies, okay, install the dependencies. After that, of course, now we run the application. So I copy this and then I have the code here. Okay, maybe I close this other window. So okay, so ideally it will run FastAPI, okay, which is in a virtual environment, okay, in the app directory, in this working directory called app, okay, until after that execute. So it will be like FastAPI, okay. This fast string is simply saying there is run in a CMD command to a certain binary, okay, called FastAPI, okay. But this binary called FastAPI is in a directory called app/.env/bin/FastAPI, okay. Run a command called run, which takes an argument called app main.py. But now for us, we don't have app main.py. If you look at this, okay, inside this folder called backend, directly we shall have main.py because we are copying everything in this current directory into app, okay. So we shall have app, then directly main.py. So I'll remove this one here, okay. We don't have another nested main.py inside. So this will be off, okay. Then there is minus port, which is port 80, minus host, which is localhost for now, okay. Yeah, so basically that's it. So yeah, we have a base image Python, we install UV, we copy everything to the working directory called app, okay, and this working directory is created by this code, okay. Then we run UV to install all the dependencies. After that, we run the application, okay. So this is a Docker file. So a Docker file is simply like a blueprint for creating a Docker image, okay, an image. So what I'm going to do next is to run a command, which I don't have, of course, by head, okay, which is this one. They say build the Docker image with this, okay. So I'll copy it and open the terminal, okay, paste, okay. So it is Docker build, okay. So we know that build, of course, is by. And by the before I continue, for you to have, before you even do this, okay, make sure you have installed Docker on your machine. And the easiest way to install Docker on your machine is by using a tool called Docker Compose, okay. So if I Google Docker Compose, okay, not Docker Compose, rather it's rather Docker Desktop. Wow, look at me. So I installed it, okay. They say they have here install Docker Desktop on Windows, okay. But now if you're on Mac, okay, you have to install on Mac, okay. So this is what I did. So make sure you have Docker Desktop, okay. This is the easiest way for you to have it. So you click on download it, and then yeah, when you run it, what you're going to ideally you should have it working successfully. Then after that, you can now go into your Docker file. Otherwise, building the image won't work, okay. So Docker build, okay, -t, we're giving it a tag, okay, T for tagging it, like giving it a name, okay, and name will be FastAPI app, then a period, okay. So I'm setting up Docker right now because later we need things like Docker Compose, we need to use tools like Kubernetes. Like I told you, this is going to be full backend, okay, right from building the APIs and then DevOps and the front end. Of course, for now, I am just doing this to make sure that we set up certain things, okay? Because some of the features we're going to be building need a database, okay? And I want to run a database via Docker, okay? So I was explaining this command. You're saying Docker build, okay? And when you're building, we're going to use -c to say tag this application we're building using FastAPI app, and then the final period refers to the current working directory. Okay, so again, if you're watching this and you're an extreme ultra pro Docker expert, please you can guide me and help and teach me something. Okay, so I'll hit enter. Okay, it's a permission denied. So let me try to add sudo. Okay, so I need to enter password. Okay, so it's, yeah, it's building. So if this at least builds successfully, it will be a good thing. Okay, so looks like it has finished building. So the next thing I can do is to now run it. If I close this, I also need maybe to close this, and I go back to, where is that documentation? This one here. Okay, next thing is to now run the container. Okay, you can now run the container using this command, saying docker run, if you can scroll, docker run, okay, -p, okay, -p for specifies the port. So we're going to map port 8000, okay, externally on our machine, to port 80 internally on the container. Okay, why 80? Because you see that inside here we are specified 80. Okay, so internally inside the machine, the Docker environment, the application will be running on port 80, but outside we want it to run on port 8000. Okay, so when you're saying docker run, you specify the port, the external port, to the internal port, and you separate them by a full colon. Then after that, you mention the name of the image. Okay, so this image FastAPI app is the image we created up here, okay, using docker build. So I'll simply copy this, okay, and run. Okay, so it's saying starting FastAPI production server. Says searching for package file structure from directories with init.py files. Could not find FastAPI module. I could not find FastAPI app in module. Try using --app. Okay, so I'll read this again. It says FastAPI starting production server, searching for package file structure from directories with init.py files. Could not find FastAPI app in module. Okay, so meaning I have to go to our main.py. Okay, are you seeing this? It's actually right. Okay, we need at least to have an instance of FastAPI here. Okay, so let us create let us create one here. So I can even maybe remove this for now. We don't need it. Okay, yes, I say from FastAPI import FastAPI like that. Okay, and I need to choose my virtual environment. So that's a command shift P, select interpreter, then select this first one. Okay, so that these squiggly lines go away. Then after that, I can say app is equals to FastAPI. Okay, yeah, so this is okay. Then I can maybe say app, say def hello, just as a test. Okay, test, and we say return. Okay, message. Okay, say flight booking API, as simple as that. Okay, then here it will be at app, this is the path operation. Okay, at app.get. Okay, save. Let's try to run this again. Run the image, says could not find. Maybe we need to rebuild it. Okay, let me try to rebuild it first. So sometimes this can be slow. It depends on your machine's resources sometimes, and your network, your speed, and etc. So let us see how fast it works here. Okay, looks like it's done. So I'll look for that command for running. Let's try to run. Yeah, and there we are. Good success. Okay, so let's say we can look at, let's go to our browser now, test out. Let's say localhost /8000. There we are. Okay, nice. We are sorted. Okay, it's now working. And if I go to /docs, we should have documentation for at least our hello world endpoint. Okay, and there we are. If I zoom out a little bit, You see, we have it. Yeah, pretty basic and okay. Okay. So what have I done? Just to give you a quick recap. Okay. The first thing you need to do is to have Docker on your machine. How can you do that? By installing Docker desktop. Okay. So if I go to Docker desktop, okay, then you look for where is their part for downloads. If I can simply search here, downloads. I don't find what I'm looking for. Hey, they actually brought stuff. If I click on, no, let me go back this side, okay, to Google. Looks like Googling is faster. Okay, there's this link here. So install Docker Desktop on Windows, okay? If you're on Windows, do this. If you're on Linux, there's this option, okay? If you're in Mac, there's this option. So I think after this video, I am going to add the links in the description to this, okay? So after that, the next step is to create a Docker file, okay? Docker file simply is like a blueprint which we use for creating containers, okay, and images, okay. So the image is defined here, okay, and when we run these instructions, we have what is called a container, okay. So after creating this Docker file, we build an image using the Docker file, okay. So a Docker file is simply a blueprint for creating an image, okay. And if you look at, if I go to my terminal here, we built the image by using docker build, okay, -t, meaning tagging or naming it, and we give it a name, FastAPI app. After that, we then run it using docker run -p. We specify the ports, okay, 8000 external to us, then port 80 is internal, okay. Why 80? Because even up inside here, we have said that the Docker, our application will be running at port 80, okay. As simple as that. Then after that, we run, okay, we run it. So that is it. So let me just, I'm seeing an alert for internet for connection, and to verify it from this end. Just a moment. To make sure. Okay, so this is, I think it's okay. I don't know why it was complaining. Okay, does it make sense? Okay, now in the chat, there's a very good question. Okay, there's a very good question from Linus. Says, hello, what is the difference between an image and container in Docker? Very good question. So I'll explain the difference. Okay, an image is simply a blueprint. You see, like in OOP, we have like a class being a blueprint, okay, then an object being an instance. So like if I go to just main.py, okay, usually you have a class, okay, let me say like class person, okay, something like this. Maybe let's create an empty class. Then you have like maybe a variable maybe called a, let's say John, okay, equals to person, okay, meaning, let me correct this, put an n. So class is the blueprint, John is an instance of person, okay. So how it works also, since classes in OP are blueprint, it's also in Docker, an image is simply a blueprint. Think of it as only a blueprint template, okay, which contains the application code, okay, contains like dependencies and instructions of how to run it, okay, and how you define those instructions on how to create that image in a Docker file, okay. That's why you see that we copy the code, okay? We copy everything from the current, this period means the current working directory, everything inside here, okay? The current working directory where the Docker file exists, meaning copy everything, okay? We copy literally everything here, okay? And copy it into a directory called app. Then app is a directory which is created by this this thing called what? Workda. Workda says set the current working directory to a directory called app. Okay. Then we run another instruction, okay, called run UV. In other words, installing what? Packages from UV, which we installed on this instruction line 4. Okay. But remember, this whole image, Docker images can be built on from other existing images. And we're building it on top of a Python image. So you're saying from Python, this, first do this, then copy, then set the working directory to this, install, run for us our dependencies, then run the application. Okay. So an image is simply a blueprint that contains application code, dependencies, and instructions how to run it. Okay. When you now follow all these instructions, okay, and run an instance of this image, okay, that has its own like space, okay, which meaning it can be started, it can be stopped, it can be deleted. Okay. So an existing running instance, okay, of an image that is called a container. Okay. So just like in classes, like in object-oriented programming OOP, a class is the blueprint, then this is the object. Okay. An object is an instance of a class. Also in Docker, an image is simply the blueprint. Okay. A read-only template that has all the application code, dependencies, and instructions how to run it. When you run that image, you get a container. So a container is a running instance of an image. Linus, let me know. How have I done? Remember, guys, these are my live learning series. Just you, like you, we began learning FastAPI together. Now we are building a project. So let me know. I might have confused you. And if you're here and you can explain it better than me, please help us. So yeah, I'm waiting for your response. Let me see. Am I this screen showing live? All right, as I wait for his response, let's continue. Okay, so I was able to run. Okay, I ran it and using Docker run. Okay, -p, I specified the external port. Okay, like you see here, if I went to the browser, we are saying localhost 8000. Okay, that 8000 is this one here, and full colon mapping it to the internal port, which is 80, just like we mentioned here. Okay, so you can always change them. Lena says, thank you for using the analogy of class, blueprint, and object instance. I now understand. Class, image, and container instance of, yes, that's correct. For those who are, whatever, I saw an analogy by someone, he said, a Docker image is like a recipe, while the Docker container is the actual the actual meal cooked from that recipe. Okay, so you know that a recipe, okay, is simply like instructions. Okay, get 1 cup of water, add 1 pinch of salt, add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, put it in the oven. Okay, that's just on paper. Okay, or a Google Doc. That's a recipe, instructions, what to do. Once you follow those instructions and create a cake, okay, that cake is an instance, an occurrence of that recipe. So the container is like the cake, and the image is like that recipe. That's another analogy. All right, friends, let's continue. Now, after that, we want to go to set up our database, okay, that we shall use, okay. But to set up that database, we need something called Docker Compose, okay. So let us Google Docker Compose, and I want you to learn this with me, okay. Docker Compose, okay. So if I expand this, okay, read this. It says Docker Compose is a tool for defining and running multi-container applications. Okay. So ideally right now we have only 1 container. If I run this command again, Docker run, okay, I have only 1 container. Okay. You see, running. Okay. And by the way, I don't know if some of you here I don't know when you exactly began to learn about programming, okay? But back then when I was studying programming, there was a very common excuse among software developers, okay? whereby would say this statement, it works on my computer. Okay, it works on my computer. That is in case we have given someone an application and it's failing on their machine. Would the first response someone would say that, yeah, but my machine is okay. It's working on my machine. A very funny, lame excuse. Okay. And sometimes it could be true, okay, that an application works on your machine but fails on another person's machine. Why? Because of different versions, different dependencies, different operating systems. Okay. So Docker was introduced to remove all these issues so that you have one consistent environment. That's what Docker provides, one consistent environment. Okay. So yeah, now you understand the purpose of Docker. So, but now right now I only have what? One container running. I want to run a database called Postgres. Okay. So our application plus Postgres. Okay. So to enable that to run more than one, we need Docker Compose. That is why I came into the browser for you to see their actual definition. They say Docker Compose is a tool for defining multi-container applications. Right now, we only have one container, so we need others. So we could add Redis later, we could add something else, okay? But I want to set it up early, okay? So it says it is the key to unlocking a streamlined and efficient development and deployment experience. Compose simplifies the control of your entire application stack, making it easy to manage services, networks, volumes in a single YAML configuration. Okay, so this kind of syntax, okay, you're going to see it. It's called YAML. You're going to see it. Okay, so it says services. One of the services we need is a database. Okay, and later we shall need a message broker. Okay, and a memory cache called Redis. Okay, and within that, so within your whole setup of Docker, you can have networks. Okay, and volumes. And volumes are simply storage. Okay, if I Google here volumes in Docker, okay, you'll see a simple explanation by AI. It says volumes are preferred mechanism for persisting data, okay, used by Docker containers. So in this case, since we're going to have a Postgres database, we're going to persist data, okay, from our environment. You'll see, you'll see something here, okay, can I call it like a directory, okay, of data that is going to come from our Postgres database to persist it in the container and out of the container. Then says Compose works in all environments, production, staging, development, testing, as well as CI workflows. It also has commands for managing the whole lifecycle of your application, which is good. Okay, start, stop, and rebuild. View the status of running applications. Stream the log output of running services. Run a one-off command on a service. Okay, so we're going to be using Docker Compose to do all this. Okay, so this is part of DevOps. So like I told you, we're going to do everything, the front end, the back end, the DevOps, everything. And I hope this makes sense. Please let me know if anything is confusing, okay? And I can try to re-explain to you, okay? Because personally, I understand, okay? I understand this. So this introduction to why, blah, 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 okay? Then they have your install, okay? So to install Docker Compose, simply install Docker Desktop, okay? So when you install Docker Desktop, like I told you earlier, okay, you'll have both Docker and Docker Compose, okay? So I'm going to go to the quick start here, okay? The quick start. On the quick start, they are saying, okay, let me read this. They say this tutorial aims to introduce the fundamental concepts of Docker Compose by guiding you through the development of a basic Python web application using the Flask framework, but first we're using FastAPI. Okay, so the concepts demonstrated here should be understandable even if you're not familiar with Python. Okay, which is good. This is a non-normative example that demonstrates core functionality. Okay, so the next, this is setup. Okay, say make directory code compose test, but I don't need this. Okay, we don't need that. because I know what is going on, okay, I'm going to skip and just explain to you everything, okay? So like you see, they have a Docker file, like we also do, okay? Then now they have a compose.yaml, okay? So I'm going to create a compose.yaml. So here's the compose.yaml. And like you see, the first thing, like I told you, Docker compose helps you to run multiple containers, okay? And ideally, one of the things you can run are services. It has what it's called services. You run multiple containers in as several services. Okay, that's the best way I can put it. So they have a key called services that you first put. Okay, so you say services full colon, just like here. Okay, then you start mentioning the names of the services. Okay. Okay, like now you see, actually, if you look at this, they are trying to autocomplete. AI is trying to autocomplete for me everything. Okay, I can decide to hit enter and I'll be done. Okay, maybe let's try AI suggestion. Okay, but this is ideally how it's going to look like. Okay, but if I go back here, let me show you here. Okay, let me make this bigger so you can see it properly. Okay, they have two services. Okay, one service is called web, another service is called Redis. Web and Redis. Okay, even as you can name them, you can say web and Redis. Okay, but me, I'm going to maybe, like you see, I'm going to follow AI suggestion. Okay, I say maybe our FastAPI app. Okay, that's the first service we have. Okay, then after that, they have a syntax calling build. Okay, build simply specifies the you're telling compose that run this. Okay, run this using the 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 Docker file in the current working directory. Okay, so like we are saying build. Okay, so I'm not going to follow AI blindly. Okay, maybe I will, but I want you to at least understand. So build period says you're going to run a service called FastAPI app. Okay, using this Docker file. As simple as that. In the chat, let me know. Does this make sense to you? Let me open the chat clearly. Does this make sense? If you're enjoying this, please share it. Okay, like this, and yeah. So build means, this instruction here means build an image from the Docker file before running the service. So it will look at this Docker file here. Okay. Okay, so when you come back here, you see they mention ports. Okay, they mention the ports. Okay, and stuff like that. So as you can mention ports. Okay, so I'll say ports full colon, go to the next line. Okay, then you put a dash, then you mention the ports. Okay, ideally it should be the same like what we had when we were running it. Okay, that the external port is going to be port 8000. That's how we are going to refer to it outside the container, but inside the container it will run on port 8080. This chat is not click live. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, so Lena says for me they make sense. I had read about Docker earlier, but I was confused. Your teaching style is now making things clearer. I'll be adopting this when building backend systems. Yeah, and will actually set you apart. Thanks, Linus. That's encouraging. Okay, so you see these guys, they have Redis. Okay, later we may need Redis. Okay, so yeah, let me leave. Let's go step by step. Okay. Okay, what else? So things you can set up things like the environment. Okay, like if you have environment variables. Okay, like I think we might even need what is it called, an environment variable file. Okay, that is something I think we shall handle later when we reach that stage, because indeed we need it. Okay. Then so like you see here, they have another service. Okay. So I can also add another service. It's called the database. Like you can say DB. Okay, like that. Okay. And you can see AI is already giving us hints. Okay. If I hit tab, okay. Let me undo this. Okay. I want to explain something. Okay. And if AI is wrong, we shall have to debug. Okay. I just wanted to show you how AI can help you. So ideally we have two services. Okay. Again, Docker Compose used to run more than one service, used to run a multi-container Docker setup. Okay. So we have two services, our app, FastAPI app, which will be built from the Docker file. I want you to have this in your mind. We have two services. How do we tell Docker Compose that we have two services? By using this word, two services, a keyword, full colon. So FastAPI app can be anything. Okay, like you see in their tutorial here, they called it web. Even as you can come here and say maybe web. Okay, like that. But we have chosen to call it FastAPI app. Okay. Then the next service is going to be DB. Okay. But this service here called FastAPI app will be built from the Docker file, like I explained. How will it know? It's by using this saying build current context. This period means the current working directory. In the current working directory, find a Docker file and build. Okay, build and use it to build this service called FastAPI app. And these are the ports. Okay. Okay. What else? The next service is called DB. You can name it anything. Okay. So it's going to just like our Docker file. In our Docker file, this FastAPI app service, okay, which is going to be built from this Docker file, okay, was created from a base image called Python 3.12. Okay. In the same way, okay, our DB service will be built from a Postgres database of version 16, and it should always be restarted. Okay. And it's going to have an environment variables. Okay. For example, like the Postgres user, you know that to connect to a database, you need a user. Okay. You need a password and the database name. The database name, the user of that database, and the password of that database. So this Postgres user is a environment key whose value is Postgres, password whose value is password, and DB is the actual database name. Okay. Later on, I'll show you how to use an environment variable file. Okay. Since we are starting, just keep it simple, but later we shall use a file. Then of course, then this is for the ports. The same thing for up here. Okay. Only that here, the external port and the internal port are the same. Then volumes. Remember what when they were explaining the benefits of Docker. If I go back, you see here in the advantages, they're saying Compose simplifies the control of your entire application stack, making it easy to manage services, networks, and volumes in a single YAML file. Okay, this is the YAML configuration. Okay, and we have two services so far and a volume. Okay, so we're going to have a volume called Postgres data. Okay, outside here you actually see out externally. Okay, mapped internally. Okay, to our Postgres. Okay. So I'm seeing an error here saying service DB refers to an undefined volume, Postgres data invalid, compose project. Okay, we're going to resolve this. Okay, so now one thing I want to show you is how I actually got to learn the things of Docker and whatever is by Googling things on GitHub. Okay, and seeing how these beta developers do it. Okay, so I'm going to go to GitHub. Okay, right now, even by just Googling. Okay. So, but before that, I can show you the several things they have here. Okay, like how to's, things that we shall learn. Okay, they have things concerning AI, things we shall learn what step by step. Okay. Maybe before that, let me try to do that. I've never done this. If I Google Postgres, what comes? Okay, nothing. Let's go to what I want to show you. Okay, so if I come and I say FastAPI, okay, Docker Compose, maybe Postgres, okay, and say maybe GitHub. That's what we're given. Okay, So there's this example that we can look at. Okay, so like you look at this one. Okay, it has a version. I guess this is the old syntax of doing it. And services, yes, two services, one called app and one called DB. Okay, very similar way. Okay, now did you see this error that was telling us we don't have a volume? When you say volumes, Postgres data, we need to create that volume. Okay, to tell you have to declare that it is a volume. How you declare it is like how this guy has said volumes, Postgres data. Okay, so I have to declare this one here. Okay, I have to come outside here. I think on the same level with service, say volumes. Okay, come down and say Postgres data like that with a full colon. Okay, and if you look at the syntax, okay, like so. So I want to close all this so you see. Okay, so I've said the volume we need, okay, for persisting data like I explained earlier is called Postgres data. That's the one being referred to here. Okay, then another thing you see, they have in the environment, they have the database URL. Okay, so we can also have something similar. Okay, the other things like container name are necessary, like if you want to rename this. Okay, so in case I don't want like the container, okay, for this service DB to be called DB, I can simply come here and say container name, come on, command, container name. I say maybe Postgres DB. Okay, it will give it a better name. Okay, instead of DB. Even for FastAPI app, I can change, but I don't want to change. Okay, but I just let's leave it at DB like that. Okay, I don't know what you think. Should I change it? Better readability. Okay, for learning purposes. Okay, let me just limit container name Postgres DB like that. It won't hurt. So here you see the environment, the database URL, blah blah blah. Okay, if you look at their Docker file, ideally is the same thing. Okay, for them they're using the old pip. Okay, pip blah 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 blah. But I'm going to, for us we're using UV. Okay, yeah. So this is how I always learn. I look at things, even as we can have this kind of like what they are the same database URL. Okay, because remember the application must connect to the database. Okay, and we need the database URL. Okay, so we can have it. So I'll copy this, come here. Okay, so environment. Okay, pretty interesting. So I want to copy this and see and compare with the output which AI had given us earlier. Okay, so you see, look at this. Okay, if I hit enter, okay, is it the same? Who can guess? Okay, they're actually very similar, apart from maybe volumes which doesn't exist. Okay, so I need to come down here and redefine. I'm going to hit tab, volumes, Postgres data. We don't need all this. Okay, just for now, like that. Okay, so database URL is pointing to the actual Postgres that we need. All right, so yeah, maybe I now need, so after that, if we actually go back to, what is this? To the quick start, okay? If I scroll, is a command I want you to see to show that it's the same. This is now build and run your app with compose. So you can use Docker compose app, okay, to build it. Okay, so we shall see similar output. Okay, so if we have no error, everything will be okay. Okay, otherwise, let me cancel this one first. Okay, I wouldn't want us, if it fails, I wouldn't want us to take a lot of time here. Okay, I'll go to the next concept which I want us to deal with. Then any bugs can be fixed online, so that in the next livestream, we need now to start implementing features since we have the database and everything set up. Okay, so ideally you run Docker Compose app. So yeah, it runs for some time. And of course, this depends on several things. Okay, like you see, it is now pulling this image. If you go to this DB, see, it's pulling this image here. Okay, so it depends on your internet speed, capabilities of your stuff. Then it says AI had added depends on in the first API. Wait. Oh yeah. Aligners, nice catch. Yes. So this is something also I wanted to understand. Okay. This depends on, okay, means for this to run successfully, okay, DB must be built fast. That's why actually you see that this is being built fast. It is pulling the DB fast. Okay. So DB, everything to do with our Postgres database should be successful. Okay. Because our service, okay, FastAPI app depends on the database. So we want the database to be built successfully fast, then this one makes sense. Okay. Yeah, nice catch. That's why I like learning in public. And for all of you who are following, don't feel shy. Okay. Don't feel shy to critique, to ask questions, to advise, to share knowledge. Okay. We all learning in real time. And again, if this makes sense to you, yeah, you share it so that we all learn together. So I'll save that. So as it's running, okay, I want to talk about something else, okay? Two other things, okay? For linting and test. Remember, I said the video title says Docker database linting tests, okay? So I need to show you something, okay, which I was reading about, okay? I've actually seen people using it a lot, but I'd never taken time to know how to install it. Okay, so I actually have to learn how to use it. That tool is called pre-commit. Okay, this tool is called pre-commit. If I Google, okay, so ideally, a pre-commit is simply a tool which allows you, read this, says a framework for managing and maintaining multi-language pre-commit hooks. I mean, ideally, what I want is before I commit, okay, I want our code to be linted, okay, like to be reformatted using a tool called Ruff. Okay, so if I say Ruff Python, okay, so linting is a tool which will take which will check for issues in our code. Okay, this is Ruff. Okay, so it's an extremely fast Python lint and code formatter written in Rust. Okay, I need to format our code always before we do git commit. Okay, then also in addition to that, I want something called Pytest. Okay, tests to be run before committing to make sure that our tests are passing before we do git commit. Okay, so this is Pytest. Okay, so we need to set up both. Okay, so I'm going to install. Let me close this probably. Then this. Then I come here. Okay, where? No, right here. Okay, so I need to install. So if I click on installation, okay, it's a pip install pre-commit. Okay, so I'm guessing maybe they didn't have a UV thing for it. Okay, so I'll copy that. Okay, so they're saying here permission denied. Okay, let me try to put sudo and run this. Okay, as I told you, I want to leave it to do its thing as I constitute on other things. Okay, so as it runs, I'll come back here, but now it should be faster because we're now catching. Okay, so I'll paste that command pip install pre-commit in this stuff. Okay, so just see what it does. Collecting. So in the next live stream, we should now start building. Okay, the first one was to understand the system design and architecture in depth, and I hope you guys understood that. Okay, now we are setting up our data. We have set up Docker. We're setting up our database. After that, yeah, linting and whatever we're done. So it has installed. After that, we now the saying run the following command. Okay. So pre-commit says unstaged files detected, stashing unstaged files to users, restored, an error occurred. Pre-commit is not a file. Check the actually we don't have one. Okay, so I guess that's why it's doing that. Okay, we don't have that file they're talking about, so I can ignore that. Okay, so yeah, we have installed that. Maybe to check we can do the same. Okay, check pre-commit minus version. Okay, okay, so if you do this, they stashed, okay, and they restored. So if you don't know what git stash is, you can revise about it in your free time. Okay, then they're saying after that, add a pre-commit configuration, create a file named this. So again, pre-commit is simply a tool which will help me do things before I run the command git commit. Okay, which is like running tests, like linting. Okay, so I'll paste that here. Says you can generate a very basic configuration using pre-commit sample config. The full set of options for the configuration are listed, excuse me, below. This example uses a formatter for Python code. However, pre-commit works for any programming language. Okay, so the example, wait. Oh, so this is not what I want. Okay, check YAML, blah 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 blah. Okay, I want to leave that. Okay, I want to show you something. Okay, so I'm going to Google here. I'm going to say Ruff pre-commit hook, because they are called hooks. Okay, so if I come here, okay, you see we have Ruff pre-commit. Okay, and this is how it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, then I explain to you. Okay, so I'll copy this. Okay, and I paste it here. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand, okay, what's this? Okay, is this stuff here called repos? Okay, so if I go back to their documentation, okay, I'll simply Control F and I do repos. This is how I learn, by the way. So you see, they're saying they're saying repos. This is a list of repository mappings. Okay, with this configuration that can help you to do things on your code base. Okay, so the first one, like it's called repo. Okay, if I simply search for repo, should be around here. Okay, say repo. I say repo. There is the repository to the URL, the repository URL to git clone from, or one of the special senator values. Okay, simply a git repository to clone from. So ideally, the pre-commit program tool is going to clone this a repo using this URL. So this is how it knows. Okay, then they say they say the revision or the tag to clone at. Okay, so they say for this tool on GitHub, clone this revision the revision 0.127. Okay, so the key is rev, the value is this. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, the repo. So all the hooks are ideally are called what? Are repos. Okay, so the first one, you specify the repo of it, and then the revision, okay, which is this one, like the version, think of it. So they'll clone using this URL, but this particular version. Then they have a number of hooks. So if you go to see the hook, they say a list of hook mappings. If I click on hook mappings, they again explain what a hook mapping is. They say the hook mapping configures which hook from the repository is used and allows for customization. Okay, simply tools to help you do things. So in this case, what we need is this, the ID called Ruff check, a hook linter whose ID is called Ruff check, which is the actual linter. Okay, and it's going to have arguments called, one argument is, it can have a list of arguments, but one of them is fix. So you say minus fix to pass the argument. Okay, Then after that, you format. Okay, so rough check is the linter, and rough format is the formatter. Okay, so ideally, actually, what I want is the formatter. Okay, I want formatter. Okay, but also, of course, we can also lint. Okay, but we shall see about linting later. Okay, maybe I might disable it if it disturbs me, but ideally it should be there, and I'll enable it. But let's first continue. Okay, next up, I want Pytest. Okay, so I'm going to Google Pytest. Remember we talked about linting, formatting, Pytest, pre-commit hook. Let us see if we can get. Okay, I'm seeing this one. Let me click on this. Okay, they say they're saying, let me expand it so that you can read. They say a single pre-commit hook to run tests with Pytest. Okay, they're saying add this. They're saying how do you use this? Wow, let me first stretch my neck. I feel maxed out. I need people to get like a high raised stuff, okay, to look like this instead of like this, to look up like this for this. Interesting, but let's go on. They say how to use. They say add this to your local pre-commit config YAML, okay, which is this file we're working with. And they're saying, so we can just copy this, okay. So they're saying how to run the hook without committing, okay, when the tests run, blah 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 blah. But we not did this, okay. So here they show how to add, of course, arguments, but we know that, okay. Let's simply do what is basic. So I'll come here. So by the way, I'm also studying. I read about this today, okay, and I'm just reinforcing my understanding right now with you live. So if you're here and you understand the things better and I've not explained it well, don't hesitate to speak up, okay. So I remove that comment, okay. So in the similar way, then this is the second repo, okay. So they'll do a git clone on this repo, but the particular revision they'll pick is this, okay. And the hooks is Pytest, the same pass file names false or is run true. What does pass file names mean? Let us go to, where is the thing for pre-commit? Let me check pre-commit again. Let pre-commit tutorial on their page, okay. So that is Control F, pass file names, okay. They're saying, wow, what have I done? Okay. So it's here, okay. Let me search for it. Where is it? It's here. They say optional, default true. If false, no file names will be passed to the hook. Okay. So ideally, when you say Pytest, okay, we run simply all tests. Okay. So if you look at here, okay, we have the tests, the bookings, our tests. Okay, it should discover them automatically. I hope so. Okay. So basically, that's what I need. Okay, for this project, one hook to lint and format. But the idea I wanted only formatting. Okay. Then to run tests. If successful, then we are allowed to commit. Okay. Wow. I'm feeling next train. Okay, let us see what. Oh, looks like the vibe coding worked. Many of you must be laughing at me right now. Oh, we found the vibe code on internet. So look at our Docker thing. It looks like it ran successfully. Okay. Let me scroll so that you can see what happened. Okay. If you see from the beginning, we ran the Docker Compose app. Okay. Actually, this was the second time. The first time permission was denied, so I added sudo. Okay. So take note of this. In your case, if it also fails, you may need to put sudo. Or if you're on Windows, maybe open your terminal, your CMD as an administrator. Then a number of things were done. Okay. Okay, so we have the Postgres. Okay, running. Okay, if I scroll, then the FastAPI app. Okay, so Postgres was the first because FastAPI app depends on it. Okay, and see that it is running. Let us check to confirm. Where was this? Where was this? If I say localhost/docs, yeah, there we are. Still works fine. If I click here, test it out, execute, there we are. We get a message. Flight booking API. Isn't this interesting, guys? This has been successful. Okay. So I will kill the server. Of course, there are things that we shall improve later, especially before deploying it like for production. We need, like in this compose.yaml file, we need to have like the environment from an environment file. Okay. We shall resolve all those issues. Yeah, but so far it's good. Okay, so I hope you understand what Docker is, what Docker desktop is, what a Docker file is, what an image is, what a container is, what a volume is, what a compose file is, what Docker compose is, the advantage of Docker compose. I hope you know what services are, what it means to depend on a service, what it means to have Postgres data, what this build means, what container name. Like in this case, we're just repeating. We don't even need this. What ports are, what environment is. We need to be able to understand all this, okay? And if you're joining right now, you can simply watch back and see the explanation. Liner says, will we be writing two repos for pre-commit YAML, or we can just use one and group all the hooks in one place? I'm seeing as if there is repetition as we copied from different sources. Please guide me. This is my first time by the configuring this. I've worked on projects whereby they've already configured this pre-commit thing. So if I look at this ideally, okay, say repos, we define the repos. We have two repos, okay? One is for Ruff. Look at the end of this, okay? github.com astro sh Ruff pre-commit. This one is from github.com. Is it Christopher? Sorry for butchering the name. Pytest. So this one is for Pytest. This one is for Ruff. Okay. And under them, you specify, like, for example, the versions. Okay. Like, I can remove, it's going to do a git clone on this repository, but it will give us Ruff version 0.12.7. Okay. This is the rev purpose. Okay. Then for the hooks, we have the hooks actually here. Okay. Which come from this repo. Ruff check for linting and Ruff format for formatting. Fix is an argument to Ruff check. Okay. And Pytest also will be gotten without passing file names and to always be run. So, Linus, please elaborate if I've not understood you. So, and if I misunderstood how it works, also, yeah, let me know. So let's try this. Let's get done with this. Okay, I'll clear, do a git add. First of all, let me git status first. Okay. So, okay, looks like we are safe. Okay. And remember, I've stopped, okay? I've stopped FastAPI app and I've stopped PostgreSDB. So if I go back here and refresh, it fails, okay? Again, starting them is very easy. Do I always need to put sudo? Let me find out. Sometimes putting sudo is very risky. Can give permission to what you don't know. So you see this? Very fast, after you've built it, it catches it, okay? So if I refresh the page here, there we are. All working. To kill, Control C, and yeah, we are done. So yeah, so let's go back. Let's try to git add. I'll just add all. Can someone suggest me a good commit message? And it says, I have gotten it clearly from your explanation. I was a little bit confused. It is now cleared. Thank you. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, that's good to know that you now understand. And of course, from time to time, if there's anything you don't understand, please always let me know and I'll always re-explain. no question is wrong. So let me try and say git commit minus m. I say setup Docker. What else? Docker maybe and pre commit. Setup Docker compose not composer and pre-commit. Did it work? Did it fail? Is that the right way to use to do it? Who knows? Let us come here, the installation. Okay, usage. Okay. They say, hey, I missed something. Okay, are you seeing this? Run pre-commit install to install pre-commit hooks to your Git hooks. Pre-commit will read this. They say run pre-commit install to install pre-commit into your Git hooks. Pre-commit will now run on every commit. Every time you clone a project using pre-commit, running pre-commit install should always be the first thing you do. Every time you clone a project, running pre-commit install should be the first thing you do. So I guess I missed that. So how do you undo a commit? Let's say git log one line. Is that the command? Looks like it did not work, but it's the commit I want. This one. How do you undo a git commit, guys? Is it git reset minus soft on the commit? Hit enter. Let's say git status. Okay. Your branch is ahead by origin, blah, 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 blah. So ideally, actually, I was supposed to go back to the previous, okay? To this one, okay? So I'll pick this commit ID. It's too long. So let me use git online to this one, okay? One behind. Actually, this one, the other one here, okay? Clear. Let's say git reset minus soft commit ID. Yeah, now it has worked. I was supposed to go back a commit behind, okay? Not the current one. So if I say git status, you will see. I love Git, oh my God. Imagine doing this without Git. I would have to do things manual and scratch everywhere. So nice. So now we can do this, okay? We can say pre-commit install. Hit enter. Says pre-commit installed at githooks/pre-commit. So I'll assume it's now working. Okay. If I say echo $, we get 0. Okay. Simply a Linux social command to show you if the previous command worked successfully. And 0 means things are okay. Okay. So looks like we are okay. So let's try. Okay. Let's try again. Git add. Then I do the commit. Where is that statement? This one here. Git commit that. There. It runs. Okay. It runs, but you see what it says? It says no pre-commit config YAML was found. Or maybe because of the location of where I am. Okay. Let me clean this. And I cd into backend. Okay. I hope pre-commit install did not fail because of this. Let me see. Okay, that was okay. So git commit. Now this makes sense. I was wondering, how comes it was just smooth? Yeah. this learning online and live is risky. Doing things like this is very risky. You get to embarrass yourself. But I guess, yeah, I'm willing to take that risk. Wow, it's taking long. It's taking long. In fact, one time when I just began my career, I used to we had this code base configured using Express, GraphQL, stuff like that. Okay, and it because my computer was also very slow with little resources, it would take long. Okay, so you see, rough check. Okay, which was this one here. Okay, the linter passed. Okay, but the formatter failed. Interesting. Says one file reformatted, Pytest failed. Test session starts, no tests run in, blah, 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 blah. So it did not, it did not commit. You check, let me do git log, minus one line. Are you seeing? We had set up backend. The other one was removed because we did the git reset. Interesting. So I want to look for that message. So the question is, how do you resolve? Says Ruff, blah, blah, blah. And I think, okay, we have PyCatch. I need to git ignore this, okay? I need to ignore underscore PyCatch. The correct spelling. Save PyCatch without an H. Yeah, it has worked. So yeah. So says files modified on this hook, Pytest failed. Okay. So is Pytest even installed? Okay. We need to add it, by the way. So if I say UV, how do you install again using UV? I don't know to show me. UV Python. Wow, this stream is going longer than expected. Need to just do UV add and maybe we call it a then continue in the next stream where we now build stuff. I think it's UV add. So if I say UV add Pytest, and then we try to commit again, we see if the Pytest thing will run. Okay. So I've added, you say git add, git commit. Now you see this time, so rough check passes, rough format passes. So I guess because the format, it formatted everything. So those two are passing. Okay. There are no linting issues with our code. There is no, our code has been properly formatted. Okay. If I do git status, just to make sure you see changes to be committed. Okay. Everything's okay. So the issue is Pytest failed. Okay. We need to resolve that. Okay. Let me try to do it in 5 minutes. If I fail, I'll do it offline then to save time in the next session as we shall build a feature. Then at the end, I'll show you what my research was and how I resolved it. Okay. So let us try to maybe write a test. Maybe it's failing because there's no test written. Okay. So I can maybe delete some of these. Okay. That we have it for one file. Okay. Let me go to let me Google Pytest. Okay. Pytest quickly, and so we see like a sample, a sample code. Okay. Actually, we did just FastAPI documentation, guys. Where are we suffering? Remember, we did this in a stream when we were learning FastAPI. Okay. If I go back here and I go back here, where is it? Testing. Okay. So testing, to use test client install. Okay, we need it. So let me add it also using UV. I'll say UV add httpx. Okay, thank God for the documentation. I remember. Okay, so we have a sample application. this is, I think, a test file. Okay, so we need to import this from FastAPI, import test client. Okay, we come to our tests, paste it. Remember, we did this while learning FastAPI testing in our live stream. Okay, so we need the test client, and remember, test clients needs what I've just installed, this HTTPX stuff. Okay, then we need to create an instance, okay, of app. I mean, an instance of test client. Okay, we say client, okay, is equals to test client, like that. Okay, and then we can now import app, because it's going to take app as an argument. So I'll say from backend dot main, yes, dot main, import app. Okay, then we give it like that as an argument, like they have done here. Okay, after that we can create a test. Okay, and let's copy this. Okay, this is the same thing, sample test. So we say they're going to say test with test underscore read main. Okay, reading, and what we want to do is responses client.get. So this endpoint for testing is this other one. If I go to main.py, is this endpoint. Okay, so we said we want to assert that the response to status code is 200 and the response to JSON is equals to, but this will fail, so we need to make it to match this. Okay, to match this exactly. So I'll just copy this just to make sure things are okay and passing. Okay, if you don't understand this, let me know in the chat. I'll explain more about it. But we did a full live stream concerning this. Okay, so if I do a quick git status, okay, the modifications can now git add. Okay, now commit. Let's see what happens. Interrupted, one error. Okay, so format failed, test failed. Let me run it again to see if it has formatted. Says stash changes conflicted with hook auto fixes, rolling back fixes, restored from blah 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 blah. Wow. So it looks like there are things I need to what? To learn about this whole thing and how the hooks work and how one thing should pass before the other. Okay. If I came to this config, okay, and I removed the formatter, okay, but I need, first let me see. Right, one file reformatted, one file left unchanged. If I do this, okay, Pytest, I want to see how these people run their tests. Okay, you see, this I did simply Pytest, okay, and everything was okay. Okay, but now I'm saying no module named backend. Okay, but that's okay. I just need now to figure out how to resolve all this, because it looks like it's saying error collecting test bookings.py, saying import error while importing module. Make sure your test modules have valid Python names. Oh, so it's actually the code. I think they're saying from backend.main import app, no module named backend. So I'll check, is backend first of all a having an init? Yes. Okay. Wow. My bundles in the brain have expired. I said 5 minutes, but now it's 20 minutes past time. How do you import this? How do I import app? Okay. From here. So we have tests here. Where is test bookings? Okay. If I did this from dot main import app. Yeah, if this fails, I guess I'll rest and debug it in my free time. Okay. So you see it says no module named FastAPI. Maybe because I'm running it. Okay, so it's not complaining about this. Okay, that no module named FastAPI. That's crazy. Okay, that's crazy. I need to investigate this in my free time, and then maybe in the next stream I'll explain to you before we build. Why is it failing to recognize? And my virtual environment has FastAPI. Oh, am I supposed to run it via UV? Okay. One more check on this repository. Let me see. Looking for testing. There's nothing concerning that. Are you seeing this? UV run rough check. Let's try to do them individual and we see. If I say UV run rough check, so we know that what rough check does. Okay. Says of course that wouldn't work. Okay, because we would need that particular file. But if I do that git commit via UV, would it work? Why is it failing to recognize? So I'll say UV run. Okay, so it ran the command, but it's still saying there is no module named FastAPI. Wow, interesting. Okay, let's try to do this. UV add okay. Oh, if I come here, this is what they call it. Is it FastAPI standard? I'm gonna try to re-add it. Okay. Which environments I want to copy something. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Wow, I'm tired. Okay. Say no matches found. FastAPI standard. How would you? But we installed this last time, by the way. Are you seeing this? Let me copy this whole string. UV add. Let's try again. The same thing. Okay. No module named FastAPI. All right. Let me debug this after, and then in the next session when we shall be building the features, I'll explain to you how I resolved it. Okay. Because I'm tired and now it's way past time. I need to rest. So yeah, thank you for watching along with me and learning along with me. At least we have some success concerning the Docker file, concerning Docker Pop Compose. We have the application running, okay, via Docker. All we need is to handle the pre-commit, because if I never solve this, okay, it means we can never commit. Okay. Actually, I've thought about something. What I'm going to simply do is to go to GitHub, find an existing FastAPI project that has pre-commit, okay, in it. As simple as that. And we shall be sorted, and I'll show you what I did in the in the next stream. Okay, so thank you for watching along with me. Yeah, like always, we are learning in public, and sometimes we may not be successful in everything, but at least we have very good successes today. So yeah, share with everybody, okay, and yeah, subscribe, and yeah, let's learn freely on the internet. So yeah, catch you soon. Actually tomorrow at the same time.